Hello and welcome to Beats, Rhymes and Life podcast. I'm Shakira.
I'm Ash.
The one and only Riz.
We're back again, guys.
Yep.
It's all sunny out, so we're all in white.
And me and Ash have our legs out today.
They do have their legs out today.
Forever in any form of sun or heat will I have my legs out.
These two love a pair of shorts.
I'm not gonna lie though, I'm a bit jealous. Ash is already kind of tanned, like.
He is looking a little bit golden brown on his legs down there, isn't he?
Golden stuff going on.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm still carrying my tan from Dubai.
Oh, word. Clearly mine wore off.
I'm topping up.
Nah, flipping. Yeah, how's everyone's week's been? Or week, should I say?
Long.
Yeah,
my week
long,
has just
very
been long and just not fun at all. At all.
I'm just happy it's been sunny. I ain't been able to enjoy it that much.
Yeah, I don't care that it's... I'm happy it's sunny now, but I was a little bit bitter about the past few days being stuck at work and everyone's like, oh, it's so nice out. I don't care. Leave me alone.
It's funny you should say that. I had training on Wednesday, so I got to enjoy... We finished a bit early, so I got to enjoy a nice... Well, I'll say with my colleagues, yeah, but... It didn't really feel like very much because we've never really like linked up outside of work, so it was just nice to kind of like spend some time with my team outside of the confines of the work setting. But yeah, we went London Bridge, I think, and just found a pub and chilled by the
Not bad at all.
Yeah,
I just rocked up to work in shorts. I was just jamming. I just stayed. I went to
lie,
work like this.
I was tempted to
I'm very jealous,
throw on a
guys.
tracksuit yesterday, but I thought, nah, let me not take the piss.
Nah, I'll be pushing it too far, especially
On
within
Saturdays,
your position.
I don't care.
Yeah, Saturdays are cool. So yeah, it's been a busy week.
There's
Yeah.
been lots taking place since the last time we recorded.
Yeah, shit.
Where should we start? I think I know where I would like to start, but
Proceed.
obviously it's that time of the year. Coachella.
Hey, Beychella.
Beychella. Yeah, so very interesting lineup. What did you guys think about the lineup?
I didn't even look at the lineup because I wasn't going, so I didn't really care.
I'm not gonna lie to you. The only thing I watched was Beyonce. But I mean that was 2 hours, so surely that was enough.
They've always got good lineups, regardless. So
Yeah, it's Coachella, innit?
Yeah, I'm not really like fussed, so I probably didn't look. I was like, whatever. And then I see Beyonce's performance live streaming. I was like, hey.
I didn't even sit. Do you know what? I woke up and all I saw was bare tweets about it, and I was like, what the hell? Like, but at this point, it was over basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, like, so you guys woke up early to watch watch Beyonce. And nobody told me.
Told you.
Like, so then I was just
I
like,
still haven't watched
snakes?
the full performance. But
I watched it.
I've seen enough of it now to be like, yeah. Like,
she
went
killed
nuts.
it. No, I was really quite impressed. I almost put bees in my name, I swear to God.
Wow.
I was like,
shift in energy.
I was like, Behab, I'm so sorry.
So just to give you a quick breakdown of some of the acts that graced the stage. So we had Georgia Smith.
Oh, is it?
Tyler the Creator, Wizkid, and a lot of...
I heard Wizkid didn't go though. He couldn't.
Yeah, I read that he couldn't make it. So
Okay.
his flight got cancelled or something like that.
So is he there this weekend? Because I know that...
I think he's there this weekend.
Okay, yeah, Lena Barris is on the lineup.
Yeah, her album was good as well.
Snake Hips was on the album. The lineup, sorry. I listened to their project yesterday. It's actually pretty good. Post Malone, Tom Misch was also on the lineup. And
yeah, so Tom was in there.
who else? Did I say Tyler the Creator?
Yeah,
He did.
Yeah.
they've got bare acts on there. They always.
So it's like
that's not even a
a
thing.
nice blend of
Yeah, that's what they usually do.
artists. Obviously everyone probably Cardi as well, innit?
Yeah, Cardi. I saw
Cardi
bits
was
of her
out there
performance.
twerking
She
her
was
pregnant
proper,
ass off.
honestly. She was
like, this
shaking.
baby ain't stopping.
She was basically, she went back to her stripper days, boy. She
was trying to get that baby come.
She was trying to show you like this.
It's not
I'm still
slowing her
here.
down.
I'm still doing it.
In terms of the whole Coachella and festival vibe, obviously it's the first major one of the year, so to have a broad spectrum of artists is not really something that we're not used to seeing from Coachella. But
Yeah, they always did.
normally we do not get the type of live show that
Beyonce put on.
Because
Queen
people,
Bee-
people don't really put on that kind of show.
Yeah.
She killed it. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing Destiny's Child back.
From
back
the
on
little
thing.
clips that I saw, can we now say that Beyonce has now given us like a standout, like iconic live performance that can go up there with the likes of Motown 25?
Do you know what? Yeah,
But I think she's kind of done stuff like that before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that performance-wise, Beyonce's always pushed it. Like, she's always gone out there to put on a proper show. Like, even just watching on YouTube, and I watch her stuff, I'm like, no, she puts everything into her performances. This one is just like, it's like she gave us so much all at once, sort of thing. We had a drum line, we had poetry, we had all sorts of things. Like, for me, like that, it was a production then. It was more than a performance, it was a
more of a
production.
production.
It was a production.
A musical director deserves all the money in the world
Honestly,
for curating that. That is nuts.
it honestly was. I really enjoyed it. And the fact that Jay-Z came out for 5 seconds and was out of breath killed me also.
That was hilarious.
It was like...
It was, you know, when all these Beyonce fans are still salty from Lemonade, like, and everyone's just like, oh, this old guy, he's out of breath. Look at Jay.
No,
He was getting
honestly,
ripped.
No, but it killed me. Beyonce performed for the best part of 2 hours. Yes, she was off for breaks, yeah, but for the best part of 2 hours, Jay came out for 5 seconds and was literally
I'm not gonna
out
lie
of
though,
breath.
like the twins and that is probably take it. Like Jay is close to 50 years of age. Like, I think we can cut him a little bit of slack in regards to taking
Cardi
a
with her
step
pregnant ass is twerking her
know
life
what it is,
away.
yeah? It's
And
funny, yeah, because
Jay was on the stage with a Zimmer frame.
Jay has basically been the cornerstone of what we would call rap excellence for so long. It's funny just seeing him like open to
Oh,
like critique,
that is too funny.
especially in terms of for someone who's done iconic tours himself.
Yeah,
I
of
remember
course.
the Summer
It
Jam.
was just very funny. It was just
Jay
very,
at
very
Summer
funny
Jam,
to see.
obviously the Watch the Tour Throne.
Watch the Front
Watch the front
Tour.
tour. Watch the tour throne.
And obviously the Hard Knock Live tour as
Yeah,
well. So
backstage,
he's someone
all of that stuff.
live, the MTV live stuff.
Yeah.
He's someone that's kind of, in a sense, one of the artists that has kind of become renowned for putting on a good rap show. So obviously seeing him
That did not happen.
did not happen at Coachella.
It was really funny because I wasn't expecting it. Like, I really wasn't expecting, like, for him to be like that, and it was just like, okay.
Well, obviously he's got the tour with Beyonce coming up as well.
He
So
needs to get into
On the
shape.
Run Part 2, he ain't going to be going out like that. Nah.
he's gonna need to tighten up a little bit.
I think
He
he needs to
needs
do
to
some
sort that out.
cardio.
Cardio, yeah, I know. Uncle
Expand
Buddy.
those lungs, bro.
Oh no, it really killed me. And she was like, "Oh yeah, everybody give it up for Jay." And it was like,
Well, before we move on though, that's one thing that always bothers me about Coachella is they've had all these amazing headliners over the year
The
who
audience
are
are
performing their asses
shit.
off, and the audience are just standing there straight, just
I
looking at
was
them.
so
They're all
vexed.
probably like high or smashed
I
off
was
their face
actually
or whatever.
so vexed watching it. Like, do you actually realise what you're witnessing right now? Because
I was waiting for
Audience,
Beyonce
look.
to turn around and go, "What more do you want from me? What more do you want from me?"
No, do you know what it is? Yeah, obviously you got to look at the timing and the venue, like Coachella's like Los Angeles type vibe. So there's probably a lot of drugs.
yeah, of course,
Yeah, no, of course there is.
And
definitely.
obviously, like this
Even now,
weekend-
I've seen bare people there. Everyone's just on taking, or say, smoking all different types of weed or eating all different types of weed.
like,
I ain't seen no hard stuff because that would be bait.
The amount of like the few people that I know that are out there for Coachella, like the amount of different types of flavors that I've seen
Yeah, it's
posted on the
nuts.
gram is like, I don't even smoke and I'm intrigued. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
What does this one do?
it looks so like that, like the little buds have like little glistening. I'm like, oh, that looks cute. Like, but yeah, just to kind of wrap up on the whole Coachella thing, the response to it has obviously been interesting.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of pick you lot's brain in regards to how does this affect the overall complexity that is Beyonce as an iconic figure. Like, where does, obviously we're always going to have those conversations in regards to who ranks where and who's people's favourites and who stands
right now
out from
Beyonce's
this
the best performer
generation.
Definitely.
So I would agree with you on that. Like, in
She's the
terms
best.
of
The only
Right now.
person even close is Bruno Mars.
that's what I said. I said
So-
Bruno is the only person that almost gets there. People are saying crackhead Chris, and that is pissing me off.
do you know what it is in terms of, like, Shakira always mentions it, and it's like, set the music aside, in terms of live performances, she's up there with the Jimi Hendrixes, the
Yeah.
Princes, the Michael Jacksons.
Yeah.
In terms of her stage show is so phenomenal
Yeah.
And it has been for
and
years.
has been for
Has-
so long.
And all she's done is tightened it. She levels up every time.
Because it's like, my thing is, it's like, I don't go to a lot of live, like, big live
Yeah.
shows.
I've never been to one of her shows.
Because it's
but
like, for me, like, what more can you add? But she somehow always finds a way to kind of up the ante just that little bit more every time.
partly
You
because
see
she's always
her?
stealing stuff, but you know.
That's a whole nother argument.
But you know,
But in terms of, like,
I respect it.
not just this generation, some of the talk on the timeline is like,
Yeah.
obviously, like, Beyonce over MJ, and I just wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on
For
No.
me,
it.
for me,
There you go.
it doesn't make sense.
There's my thoughts.
It doesn't make sense to compare them
Yeah.
because they're from two very different eras. One, Michael set the standards in a lot of different ways. Beyonce couldn't have been the performer that she is
Without-
if MJ didn't exist, because he leveled up for her to get there. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not at a time where they're performing at the same time. It's completely different. I don't see
There's a million and one different factors
like
that go into it. I mean, you know, people were like fainting and stuff seeing Michael Jackson. That is like the real definition, like, of a superstar.
I think also is that when people are, it depends what you mean by a performer, because for me, they're in the entertainment industry, so the idea is that they're entertained. And people are saying, oh yeah, you never saw Michael on stage singing for 2 hours. Okay, the fact that she performed for 2 hours is amazing, but that
Yeah,
in itself
in itself.
isn't a credential in saying you're the best performer, you're the best entertainer. Because although I was thoroughly entertained, she could have been on there for 2 hours and I was bored. Do you get what I mean? That fact is
not
what she
factored
produced for
into
those
the
2
2
hours.
hours.
That was great.
Yeah.
Not the fact that she was on there for 2 hours. Also, Michael didn't need to perform for 2 hours. Another thing is that he seldom had opening acts, so he was on stage, for
quite
a
some time.
long time. So you can't really, like, it doesn't make sense to.
Obviously, Ash is pretty much straightforward. No, there's no comparison.
You know, it's not even that there's no comparison,
for
but
me,
it's stupid to make the comparisons. If you're
Beyonce's
gonna
in
talk-
her own lane. I don't think
Yeah.
that there needs to be a comparison.
There shouldn't be
There
a
doesn't.
comparison. It's the natural thing that happens, that, you know, you go back to the previous generations, like whoever was doing it so well, that you're going to compare them to them. But I think comparisons between maybe the 60s, 70s through to the late 80s, early 90s are very different to now, with the
Yeah.
inclusion of social media and all the other digital options that we have in
'Cause
general.
people-
Everything's available. Before
Yeah.
it wasn't. So you
People are
wouldn't get
asking
to see
for
it.
footage of, show us footage that shows Michael
singing
being
and
better than
dancing.
Yeah,
Beyonce.
like,
How are we going to have it? How? There
Do you
was
know
no
what?
internet.
She's,
know what?
Like,
she's clearly the best of her generation.
absolutely.
That's
And
not
what I will say is,
And Michael was the best of his.
and
Like,
even then, like, as much as Michael was given that title, we cannot overlook Prince in terms of a live performer.
no, we can't.
Because
Or
as much as we
musically.
love Beyonce and Michael, they don't play any instruments.
Well, and this is what I've like. I always kind of said that as a musician, Prince was the
is
best.
The best.
Prince was the best as a musician, and people try to push MJ in there, but I'm like, musically speaking, it was Prince.
Musically, in terms of writing, composing, and performing, he ticks all three of the boxes. Like
Bro,
Prince,
he played how many instruments?
himself
was like
How many instruments?
a master of like, it was something, I think it's like 55 instruments.
Yeah.
It is actually a number that ridiculously high.
So for me, that level of like
And played
skill,
them all himself on the album.
Yeah. Like you
what?
can't really compare like to that in it. So we need to kind of like differentiate between what we value
What
in it,
we're
and
asking
it just
for,
depends
yeah.
on
The
what
criteria.
you value more. So in regards to the GOAT conversation of who's the best iconic artist, on a lot of areas Michael will score highly because of obviously his impact and how he
His stage presence, his star power.
he transcended not just music, he transcended race, gender, so many different lines and barriers. He during his ascension to stardom, he broke through so many different boundaries. So people are always going to have a certain affinity to Michael, and obviously seeing him grow up in front of you as well.
Yeah.
Like
It's different.
It's a different type. Like Beyonce's been around for years, but we didn't see Beyonce as like a 5-year-old, even though Michael wasn't 5. Like we saw the whole journey from the beginning all
from
the way
childhood
to the end.
through to adulthood.
So he's gonna have a special place in anyone that was a part of that journey. So it's like we look at Michael with a particular type of glow and like it's like.
The worst thing is I don't even have that thing. I've like pop Michael Jackson, for me, I was never the biggest fan. You see, like a lot of people, like you're saying in our generation, like, you know, Michael was the greatest at everything and everything.
I don't believe that.
I've never been that person. Like, especially when I was younger and I went back and listened to all the old Jackson 5 stuff, and then when they were the Jacksons and CBS and etc. All of that stuff. I prefer Young Mike's music,
Of course.
like
It's
especially
more soulful.
vocally, and it's a lot more soulful.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, give me Off the Wall over Thriller any day.
Yeah,
Oh,
same.
of course.
It's like it sounds harsh to
sounds
say it's not
absurd,
a competition,
but to
but
me,
it's not in my
That it was
opinion.
more authentic for me. It was it sounded like, but even that, he crossed through different genres. He touched on a lot of different things. Like Michael did a lot in his career. He had a long career though. He had a long career. Beyonce's had a long career also.
Yeah, but
but
there's still time.
I just think, do you know what it is for me? And this is something that I just Beyonce still hasn't given us her all. Do you get what I mean? Vocally speaking, she hasn't given us
I
her
think
all.
vocally and musically she hasn't, but performance-wise, without a doubt, she's out of this
I mean,
world.
and then next year she's gonna top it again. Like,
Yeah.
do you get what I mean?
funny
Like,
probably
thing
will.
about that
She will
is,
top it again.
My one main critique of Beyonce in terms of like, I look at Usher as someone who potentially could have been that guy for this generation.
Yeah, he could have
He could have, and he has the musical.
had.
I think it's that
No, in terms of that, you can't take that away from him.
Usher
In terms
tries
of
to follow
He took it away from
trends.
rather than
He took
set
it away
one.
from himself.
Okay,
bruv.
so let's rewind to 2004. And obviously for me, you know when you have that seminal piece of work that defines a time, I don't think Beyonce has a Confessions.
No, she doesn't.
No.
She doesn't have that standout body of work that we can
No.
look back and say, well,
think-
this is her at her pinnacle.
What was arguably her best album?
I
Four.
think Four's her
Four.
best,
Four's her best album.
But even
it's
then, it's
not
not
an
that,
amazing
it's
album,
Not that great.
like-
Do you know what though? For me, it's like that's really what I see about Beyonce. And that's kind of why it's like I can't even say look at what she's done for music, but it's not because she doesn't have the talent. She has all of it. And I think even when she sings, you can tell that she's not stretching it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's why her voice has had no wear and tear, because she actually hasn't pushed it to limits. She
hasn't
holds
gone through-
back.
yeah.
She holds back. You can tell. Like, so it's like when I think of what you could do, like that's amazing. I just wish I wanted to give it to us at some point.
Do you know what it is? I think it's interesting because we mentioned Prince here, and obviously, like, Michael existed in a time where there was Prince, Madonna. Like, you can even look at U2, Bon Jovi. They're all like people that, whether or not it's your type of music or not, even Whitney Houston to a certain extent. They're all
They're
people that were revered for performance,
vocals,
along with good music. So it's like,
But
I don't
again,
think Beyonce has anyone pushing her to excel.
no, she
to
doesn't.
that.
It's
No.
a different time. Like we said, the only person close is Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
And then you look at who people are always gonna pin them together, but they're not even close. Like
Rihanna.
you can't put Rihanna and Beyonce.
Rihanna's voice is not there at
It's
all.
not even a competition,
No.
innit?
Rihanna's got likability,
Yeah.
and she's got relatability, whereas Beyonce doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Beyonce doesn't have that. It's only since she's had the kids that people have started to
Started
warm to her
drawing,
in that way more. But
Yeah.
whereas before she was just held up on esteem, we don't know anything about her, but she started to humanise herself a bit more now.
Yeah, with
But
the
because she wasn't
documentary,
human
yeah.
before.
Yeah.
She wasn't. She was just a figure. And since
And
you
a
know,
product, because we
Yeah.
think Destiny's Child
Brand.
were drilled from like years.
she started to humanise herself more now, but she's still, because she still keeps us at a distance, there's still that wall then where you
Yeah.
can't
Break.
fully relate to her, whereas Rihanna bears all, and you just
Rihanna's
feel like,
very much for the people. Innit?
yeah, she's the people's
She's
champ.
the people's
She's
champ.
the people's champ, but she's not, talent wise, she's not Beyonce level.
Not even close.
She's not Beyonce level.
So for me, like obviously there was a just like just to like kind of wrap up on this in terms of even then like how we would score. Like if we was to break it down, I'm sure many people have tried, and it's like there's no set way to kind of like look at these types of arguments and debate and come up. It's all objective at the end of the day, but there was a discussion on the timeline yesterday in regards to how we view Michael. So for me, like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm not the biggest. Like I love Michael Jackson, love the music, love what his impact on the overall culture and other artists and stuff. But despite being a super big Michael fan, I can look at it and say that he wasn't the best vocalist.
No.
He probably wasn't. Like, I'm going to detract from the fact that mentioning Prince, he didn't write a lot of his songs, didn't really play any instruments, so he doesn't score high on the musicality side.
No.
So wasn't the best vocalist, even though he did have an extremely broad vocal range, and like Ash mentioned, like
But I
had to
think
deal with being a child singer, and then obviously your voice breaks, and still
Yeah.
finding a way to make it work.
Yeah.
I give him that.
And
But
I think towards the end, obviously his voice wasn't the best, but it was partly due to wear and tear because he did push his voice.
Yeah, he pushed his voice.
push his voice,
Yeah.
and that's so your voice naturally. Even with look at Whitney, her voice deteriorated. Mariah Carey, they all do once
do.
they push their vocals. But
who would you say? Yeah, because the topic basically was vocally who can you say was outright better? Like for me, I can name tons of like musicians, whether it's recent, not so much recent, but like pure vocals. Who would you put on like that super like supreme level from a vocals perspective?
Whitney, Mariah, who else from recent? They're the first couple that come to mind, to be honest.
For me, like in
Even-
terms of vocals, I don't think I've heard a purer vocal than Whitney Houston. I struggle to find someone that
Probably inclined to agree.
I
like just like Whitney's stage show was absolute trash.
Yeah.
But just pure from a vocal perspective,
Yeah.
I don't think there has ever been anyone that had pipes like Whitney.
yeah.
You would struggle.
I think that her voice, vocally she was there. She had range. She had the smoothness of her
The
voice.
clarity.
Yeah, she. But then she pushed it. She pushed it and she stretched it, and it.
The thing is, just to wrap up on this, because we've had this conversation so many times as well before we finished. I totally agree that in the sense of Beyonce doesn't push herself, but I also think that it's a different climate now as well.
So she doesn't need
So
to.
she doesn't need to. If anything, it may be a downside for her to actually push herself that much.
Oh,
But then the
I
other
was thinking
side-
of the flip of it. Yeah.
But then even then, the other side of that is you're Beyonce. You can do what you want.
But I was thinking on the flip of it, maybe the fact that she hasn't pushed it has given her greater longevity.
Yeah.
So maybe
exactly.
she's gonna. She obviously hers will age better than those who do push it. But then I just feel like, but you don't. You get a collection of Beyonce's, but you don't have one. Oh my God, Beyonce! That album or that song or that. Do you know what I mean? We don't really have that.
It's one of those interesting. It's gonna be like when the cards eventually do fall in it, you're gonna have your people that lay on the B is everything, and then some people will be like MJ or whoever your particular.
I just think we should give them. We don't have to dig up MJ from his grave. We can help Beyonce without dashing the king out.
Just another thing as well, just a personal thing. Ash is rolling his eyes, like. Can we also, like in terms of when we're looking at live performers, like as much as like we're gonna say MJ is a great dancer, like we do need to also take into consideration that like a lot of these top-notch artists did not come up with their whole routines themselves, innit? Like they use choreographers, and as much as Michael impacted so many other people in terms of Chris Brown, Usher, the list is endless. Like everyone's probably got that dusty home video at home where they was impersonating Michael Jackson at a kid's party or something like that. But until obviously Jeffrey Daniels is credited as one of his major, like someone that worked closely with him, and obviously Vincent Patterson. But until then, he was pretty much doing his best James Brown impression, innit? Yeah. So to say that obviously Michael Jackson is the be all and end all of dance routines, like to me, it's just a bit
insulting to James.
Yeah,
I hear that.
But moving on swiftly, Radar Radio. So I don't know if anyone, if you're socially active, you would have come across some interesting tweets.
The doom of Radar Radio.
Pertaining to various DJs that obviously are on Radar, no longer being on Radar, and subsequently broadcasting of Radar Radio has ceased. Well, is it a permanent thing or
no? They said until they can address
until they can address.
so indefinitely.
Yeah. So the whole Radar thing started with somebody coming out and basically writing a blog.
I think it was Pussy Palace did their thing first.
Pussy Palace started with their statements on why they were leaving Radar Radio, talking about it, like toxic masculinity and blah 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 blah, like bare trigger and buzzwords, although they were actually being real. But I just, when you see it and I see toxic and this, that and the other, and I find it hard to take it seriously, but they clearly were being serious. And it seems that everything they've been saying has now been backed up by numerous people. So they made their statement about leaving, about how they were treated, and there was harassment, disbelief, allegations of abuse and stuff. And then somebody else wrote a blog post that obviously went through a similar situation, was being harassed as well, and complained about it, and basically got shut down by everything. Had to sign an NDA, and they got an external HR company to come in and basically politely shut her up, rather than
deal with the actual,
rather than genuinely deal with the issue. Their outcome was of the issue. Bear in mind, she listed everything that had happened was to provide sensitivity training to their staff.
That never actually happened.
Yeah, that was
basically
their outcome.
Like, you go to work to be sexually harassed and abused, and then
not taken seriously, etc.
comes of it.
But you're told, shut your mouth and don't talk about it anymore.
Wow. To be honest with you,
and then a couple of DJs' names in particular were mentioned.
Oh, can you mention them?
With very specific examples.
I'm not gonna know.
Ralph Hardy has been outed by a few women now.
I don't even know who that is, to be honest.
I didn't know before to be honest.
I knew he was because we used to follow each other back in the day.
Okay.
So
I've heard a lot of stories now.
Yeah,
about him.
I didn't know he was that guy.
I'd heard about some of his iffy behaviour, outside of this.
Yeah.
In the sense of like,
I had known
I'll help you with your music kind of thing, and you know, just that almost grooming. But then,
but what the interesting thing was that he tweeted that he, in light of what's
been going on, I'm no longer going to be on radar.
I'll no longer be on radar. And people are like, what? You were the biggest one. Like you are the biggest sexual predator.
A lot of people are coming out saying he's a sexual predator.
Yeah, and his ex, I didn't see the thread that she did in the end,
women,
but his ex-girlfriend who was on and off with him for a bit, for years, she said. She started a thread, but I didn't actually see the outcome of that, so I don't know what that, but she was like, it's going to take a while, but you know, she's going to explain everything that he put her through. And then she posted like a screenshot of him like calling her. She was like, I think the fuck not, like, because he must have obviously seen her tweet and thought, no bitch, shut up, and tried to call her. She was like, no, think the fuck not.
There's other people that are supposedly, but he's been like, they've been touting him as the R. Kelly of Radar Radio. Like, apparently they've
actually been calling him
apparently Ralph Kelly.
Ralph Kelly.
Yeah, they've been going ham on him. Like, I don't think we're going to be seeing him around for a while.
Like, I work in a totally different environment, innit? And I would like to kind of think that, like, say for instance, you're my colleague and I'm doing inappropriate things or making you uncomfortable at work, that someone else that sees this can obviously, like, not necessarily put a stop to the situation, but like intervention of some type.
Well, that's what they're saying about Ralph Hardy, is that obviously he's been doing this for years and years and years and has always been able to get away with it.
And I think that's why Radar as an institution is taking the flak, because it's not just individuals have done these things, it's individuals were doing these things and Radar enabled it.
Alright, so the one tweet that I did see from a member who was obviously a DJ, who was DJ Matthews, he said something about being aware of certain...
He was aware.
Yeah, he said he was aware of certain things that were going on and was complicit, but he now sees it to the point where things have now come out, so he has no other choice but to leave.
Wait, I thought that was just him being flippant.
I
thought he was taking the piss. I didn't know that he was actually on there.
Because to me it was like,
I don't think he was on there.
I thought that was him just saying this is what people are doing.
That's what I said. I don't necessarily, like, for me,
don't you know, bare people have left before Radar said that they're taking their station down for now.
I thought that he tweeted that basically saying this is what people are doing. Yeah,
because to me, I was like, I don't follow that many people on Twitter, so it's like I only get bits and pieces of the story, and I kind of like, unless I do any further investigation, it's like, alright, cool. So to me, like, that's why it seemed a bit strange that all of this can be taking place. Like, this is a, like, the amount of DJs and people that must pass through the Radar offices.
Yeah, Radar's big.
It's a big place.
It's been a very big outlet for people.
The funniest thing was that the girl who wrote the blog post said that she, like, it was happening at events, even stuff like that, and they were, you know, groping and doing whatever they were trying to do. Yes. And then she tried to rant about it on one of her social media pages, and they pulled her up and said that she's a representative of Radar and that she shouldn't post things like that. And she's just like, you know,
you shouldn't touch people that don't want
these
to be
dudes touched. Are wearing Radar t-shirts and sexually harassing women, and that's okay, but I can't talk about the fact that that's been happening.
She proper got shut down.
Like, oh, it's horrible.
And if you read her account of, like, when she spoke to the HR person, she was like, by then this had gone back and forth for so many months. I was so stressed out, and she said about other stuff she was going through in her life at the time as well, and she was just like getting harassed and basically abused at work. But now, off the back of all of this, a lot of people have then started getting onto the whole premise of Radar, because it's owned by Ollie Ashley, who's the son of Mike Ashley, who owns Sports Direct and obviously Newcastle Football Club. And everyone knows about Sports Direct and their 0-hour contracts and all the stuff they do, that's usually in breach of employment laws,
And it
which
was
explains why all of their staff are so flipping rude, man. You lot get on my nerves.
Sports Direct.
Yeah,
But
they're unhelpful.
I can't
Every
say
single
I've
one
been
of them.
sporty enough to be in. I might have to pop to Sports Direct
But
over the weekend, so we'll see.
I always get football stuff from there. So.
I
But yeah, one thing I would like to say though with the whole thing is that obviously we don't know about the other inner workings of the station and the other day-to-day activities and stuff. But one thing I can say is that they did do a lot of good. If you think about how many people have their shows, podcasts, whatever, all on Radar, it's a huge platform. So I hope either somebody snatches up all of that talent onto another station, which has maybe a truer aim, let's say, after Jama's whole thing, which made sense thinking about it after, especially after all this stuff came out as well. Yeah, that happens, or someone just buys them out and rebrands them, and just because they ain't coming back. They
It's
like
a hard road.
it's this done. Like they could put all the
Do you know what it
apologies in
is?
the world, change their policies.
once you take it to the point where it's like, yeah, management did this.
like
Yeah,
they
you're
admitted
absolutely done out
making
here.
those mistakes.
Like, you're absolutely done out here.
Even in this world of fake outrage and stuff, like this one was real, innit? Like, so I think they're
leads
done.
us onto our next topic. We would like to
Look at that
hand
grin on
over
his
to our
face.
social media.
Segue, hey.
Yeah. Our social media expert, Shakira.
Oh,
if you'd like, if you would like to fill us in.
rest in power, my Jama. I feel so bad for her, and then not at the same time. Do you know what? Yeah,
She only started deleting her tweets last night as well.
it is tight for her right now. So a tweet surfaced yesterday from 2012 where she had quoted a Cat Williams joke saying these dark-skinned women cutting their hair thinking they're going to look like Amber Rose wind up looking like Michael Jordan. So she had put that in quotation marks and then done the longest of LOLs. Yeah, so that resurfaced and it was like
It's a bit awkward.
what's happening here? And rather than people just saying, yeah, she was way out of line, there was a whole bunch of people going, look, it's in quotation marks. Okay, one, yes, it's in quotation marks, but she's finding it highly amusing. That's just as bad. Two, people are like, look how long ago it was. Doesn't matter. Didn't matter the other day when it was...
Steph.
Didn't matter when it was Steph. Did it matter when it was Sabrina Claudio? No, it's never mattered how long ago it was. Anyway, so she did her initial. Then there were people like, just saying, look, she was bang out of order. So she did an initial apology. She apologised.
She went all lives
And then
matter
she
at
said,
the end.
the apology was great. You could tell she did it herself. And then she said,
it was quite good.
not just to dark skinned women, but to all women. It was like, I was rooting for you, man. Like, you were so close. So then she had to apologise for her apology, which I thought was the funniest thing I've seen in years.
Too much.
So she was like, I'm sorry. Obviously, my apology caused more harm than good. I was like, no. This is hilarious. And then now it's like basically people are just looking for anything to draw her out. They are trying to get her all the way out of here. And it's funny because the more tweets that I see, you can tell the kind of young person that she was. Like, you can tell the exact kind of person that she was.
Yeah, because the thing is, she was super young when she burst on the scene, so you can tell what it was.
Yeah,
Especially in that period of Twitter, like
you can see exactly what kind of person she was. But it's awkward for her, one, because your boyfriend's sisters and mother are very, very dark-skinned women.
She's going to be looking real different.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it starts to look sketchy. Stormzy's deleted, deactivated. I don't know when he's coming back. She started deleting tweets. They're pulling up all kinds of tweets. They're pulling up tweets about where she's called somebody a faggot. They've pulled up tweets of her
like cussing fat people. Just doing everything your role model is not supposed to do.
Doing her all of this. You're not natural haired. You got weave. All of this
you
stuff.
Got horse hair and
she did a lot. But yeah, some of the stuff I'm like, this is normal Twitter stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
Like some of the stuff I'm like, to be fair, you guys still do this. Like you guys still make these jokes.
This ain't nothing new.
Like
you're just trying to tear her down at this point anyway. With
like
the remainder.
so yeah, there's a target on her back right now. There's a target.
I see what you did there.
There's a target on her back right now, and do you know what? On the one hand, yeah, I believe in accountability. But I respect her, and I think the difference between her and Steph London is Steph London tried to pretend that the tweets were made up and that she did it entirely wrong. Whereas Maya Jama's just been like, I am so sorry, it doesn't matter how long ago it was, I was so wrong for that, I should have never done it. So there's accountability there.
Do you know
she
what
needs
it is?
to give her whole PR team a bunch of slaps.
There's also
I don't
the thing
understand. I really
for me, like, people now are asking for her to be sacked and stuff. From
This
her
is
job.
all the stuff.
And for me,
I hate that shit.
Accountability is one thing, but she doesn't need to be removed from her position unless. Do you know what it is? If she was displaying signs that post 2013 she's still that person, then I would say, okay, cool, that's who you still are. But if she's shown some sort of growth.
Alright, just to kind of, I know this is gonna sound weird, yeah, but just to go back to the Jamie Carragher situation in terms of, is it ever right to remove someone from their position in terms of no matter how offensive or
in the public eye, it's very, very, very different.
I think that
If you think of a normal day-to-day job, maybe not so much. But then
I'd say yes, because you're still dealing with people. So if those are the views that you hold.
But the reason I say is maybe still not much, yes, is that it's not even not just talking about Maya Jama, but any of these kind of situations that have been happening of late, is that when you're in the public eye and you're supposed to be some form of role model and you count for so much more, you have much of a further reach, and there's other implications on the business and the company and so many other things it can affect, where on just an average person in an average job that might have some wild views or might have spat at someone or something, Jamie Carragher-esque, I wouldn't expect to see somebody get sacked from their job because they spat at someone in an argument outside of work. If they've got these crazy views, then talks are going to have to be had,
I'm not gonna lie, I have
because
some
you represent the
crazy
company.
views. I'm sure if my manager knew some of my crazy views, I might not be.
I'm sure if anybody knew some of your crazy views, you'd be in trouble.
In terms of having the views that affect people, if you're in a position where you're dealing with people, it's dangerous because unconsciously you could be you could be implementing on that. You could be thinking on that. Do you know what I mean?
This is why it's an interesting conversation.
So it's like, on one hand, you could say, oh, well, people are allowed to have their views, but the moment that you express those views in the public domain, you're putting them out there for judgment. Do you know what I mean?
I'm so glad that you harped on it, because I feel this is the difference in terms of why I mentioned the Jamie Carragher. You could be the biggest racist bigot,
and no one would know,
Exactly. And that could be, you could be actually moving in a particular way, and like, say for instance my job, obviously I could be the biggest racist, and like I could be putting boundaries in front of people pursuing whatever. So just because you don't necessarily come out and say anything, it doesn't necessarily stop you. And that's
Britain, isn't it? That is Britain.
That's basically what this country is made up of. So now we've come to a point where that closet background, like ideals of very core, like what we would call Brexit Brexit type views, to me it's like, I would prefer to know the devil and feel more comfortable. I feel more comfortable in a world where people can openly express their ignorance, and then we can address the ignorance rather than they running
under
back
the carpet.
And like,
because
it's none of this,
because it's cowardice.
None of this actually deals with the core root of what people like, the differences that we have as humans and race, and like in terms of our sexual preferences, and everyone has their views in it. And the more we make it difficult for people to be who they are in front of the camera, the more people are just going to run and have those views behind the camera. And it doesn't ever... And we could say that's just life. But I feel more comfortable. Like, I can have a discussion with someone who is openly racist and challenge their views. And I know that their views are not going to change. But at least I know how to move around you. And I know what to expect from you. Rather than...
I'd like to think it'd be pretty obvious what to expect from
no,
racist.
but in terms of... I feel more comfortable. So, for me, the super PC... move towards being politically correct and sometimes overboard PC correct.
It's constantly overboard.
To me,
it's ridiculous now. You lot are all soft.
I can't exact. I want to be able to. Sorry, there's a child in the room, but I want to be able to say some wild, like, and not necessarily have to worry about. If that's how I feel at the time, I should be able to express myself. If someone wants to challenge my views, and then we can have a conversation about those views, and it might enlighten me to something that I might not have been aware of. That's how we elevate as human beings, innit? Whereas us being scared to say what we feel and we believe, because obviously any backlash that might come off the back of it, it's like, does that really help us grow as individuals, or is it just people having those same nuances but just behind the scenes? I don't know. But it's a weird one for me.
I feel like, to be fair, we're never going to get to a point where those views don't exist.
Yeah. That's what I said. It's Britain. Like, we've grown up in Britain in terms of, like,
I do
we're
believe
in London. Go to the farthest part of Buckinghamshire where you're not as, like, commonly seen, like, ethnic minorities. That still exists.
Yeah.
Like, you go to certain part of the countries and you can't really move how you would move in London, because it's just not like that, innit? So that's never gonna disappear. And, like, unfortunate that obviously people are ignorant in certain aspects, but it's a weird one. Like I said, for me, I just want to be able to tell someone to suck their mama.
you can know.
Okay then.
You can know. But I think it's important to then let people know that certain behaviours aren't okay.
Okay.
And I think that that's the crux of the issue, is that don't allow people to believe that those behaviours, those thoughts or whatnot, that and hatefulness is okay. Let's not enable it and say, yeah, well, you know, it's perfectly fine for you to be that way. I get what you're saying about you wanting to know what you're dealing with, but in Britain we're never going to be in a place where we know what we're dealing with.
You see, like, for instance, the timeline, yeah, it's like a world of its own, yeah, and obviously colorism is something that has constantly been a topic of contention on the timeline. And obviously we've come to a point where it's like, it's more discussions are happening, and you're noticing that, like, whether or not, like, I'm not a black woman, innit? I'm never gonna know how it feels to have that level of, like, scrutiny. Like, I'm a black man, so I know what that feels like, and it's not something that I necessarily walk around with the weight of every day, even though it is an everyday. Like, I'm never not gonna be a black man, if you know what I mean. But I feel just the open, like, the conversation being had in open public spaces.
Well, a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction in terms of, like I said, I feel education is very important in terms of, even if you're not going to change the minds of the masses, the few people that might have picked up that just something from that conversation and now will not,
like Killer Mike doing an interview with the NRA.
but it takes one, like, it's never going to be an overnight change overall, but slowly, innit, like, you will see a change in the culture and how we deal with colorism. Because, like I said, I'm not a black woman, so I'm not going to look at Shakira and knows what it feels like to be a victim of that type of conversation, and how I know how, like I said, I know my experiences as a black man in particular, but we can't pretend like it's not a thing, innit? It's very much something that is talked about enough for people to be consciously or subconsciously aware of. And until we get to a place where it's like everyone kind of has a generic understanding of, all right, whether or not you agree, disagree, or are indifferent about it, let's not dismiss it as an issue overall, because like I said, it's something that black women do speak up a lot about it. So we can't just sit here and say that how they feel about it is invalid.
Can we move on to music now?
I know this has been one of those episodes, isn't it?
Thanks for your monologue, Grizz. I agree. Yeah, I'm glad you got all philosophical and stuff and got some stuff off of your chest.
Yeah.
In other news, guys, J. Cole and Nines dropped on the same day, which I shouldn't have to put that in the same sentence as if there should be a competition. But there clearly is. J. Cole's album wasn't as bad as everybody else made out, in my opinion. It's not good, but I don't think it's as bad. The way it was made out to me was that there wouldn't be a song on there I could listen to.
Alright.
There's a couple.
Technically, by definition, yeah, I listened to it twice. So I listened to it on the way to work yesterday. And
I don't think it's that depressing either until further in. I expected some dark,
is probably
gloomy
the
project.
best
It's
word
not that.
to use.
I don't think it's a bad
I will
project.
say, it's just not in, like, it just doesn't sound very inspired. Like, in terms of, like, I listen to my mum's one of those parents who is semi in the know. She thinks she's cool. She has a moment. She thinks she's down. And she's like, oh, who's this? And I was like, J. Cole. She's like, and I'm not gonna lie, the first time I listened to it, like, the only track that grabbed me was the interlude, where he was talking about his mum's struggles with alcoholism and stuff.
Yeah.
That was the only song that, like, I actually was intrigued from beginning to end. The rest of it sounded like a parody. Like,
do you know what the best track on that album is for me? The End, which is the intro to the Fall Off. That's actually the best track on the album. It's after the outro.
I'm gonna have to. Like, I did hear
the beat's decent. He's actually rapping properly. He's sending a few subliminals as well out there. I was like, so this, when Joe Budden was talking about this is, we think Cole is coming out to compete this time around, that track embodies coming out to compete. The rest of the album doesn't. And apparently it was put together in 2 weeks, which kind of shows, in my opinion.
Yeah, for
but
me,
I just don't think it's as bad as everybody made out. Like, and I'm the first one to cuss J. Cole. I didn't even like J. Cole until Forest Hill Drive came out, which is why I've always stuck with my analogy. He's the Gary Neville of rap. Like, he's, you know, nice enough. What Gary Neville was regarded as a solid pro, you probably kind of half regard J. Cole that as a rapper, and, you know, bordering on elite, but he's kind of boring, isn't it? So
kind of.
I say kind of because I don't find all of his music boring. I found it very average up until 2012, 2013, especially when before that he was self-producing so much, and the stuff he was producing was whack until he got some of his out stuff.
I liked Born Sinner in terms of, like,
Born Sinner had a few good tracks on it.
You see, like, how we've come, and obviously Kendrick, Drake, and Cole are basically,
yeah, they're the golden children of this generation.
They're the ones that we look at, and you see, like, for me, it's like, I don't understand how J. Cole exists in the space and the realm that he does, but people don't view Wale as a good artist. It doesn't make any sense to me. Because essentially they do the same things.
They do, although J. Cole definitely, I think his pop attempts were more realistic, where I think Wale's weren't. But I think two of the things you get differently is J. Cole doesn't really talk. He doesn't do interviews. He doesn't. Oh,
he's very much an artist.
Yeah, he is. He's an artiste. So
he's bougie with it.
Yeah, he don't really talk much, innit? So
I can't ever say I've heard like a mainstream interview with J. Cole,
where Wale is out there whiling on everybody because he's mad emotional. Like, him and Jim Jones are bare similar in that sense.
He's a Virgo.
And and he's just like, he comes across, and sometimes when you actually listen to him, not sometimes, more often than not, Wale has genuine valid points. What he's saying makes sense, but sometimes how he's conveying them doesn't. And I think even then, yeah, very. But even then, I think when he's rapping, he's got a thing as well where I think he over elaborates his rapping just to try and prove that he is that good. Yeah. Like, we know you can rap. You don't always have to do that. So I think that's where he's fallen into that weird pocket. And I think plus being signed to MMG and Atlantic has never made sense for Wale. He's not an MMG rapper. Even though they've made some good music together, doesn't make any sense. And now he's obviously come back and he seems very reinvigorated. So I think now we're probably going to see Wale's peak.
I'm expecting good things from the next Wale project. But just to go back to Cole in terms of like...
He is boring. But
I don't find him boring. I just don't...
Forest Hills Drive was great. And I would say that it was great. But nothing else has been.
I liked Forest Hills Drives. And there was a couple tracks on For Your Eyes Only that were okay. But like I said, for him, I don't understand now.
His mixtapes has been his best stuff. Friday Night Lights and I think Truly Yours too.
I think he's rapping himself out of that bracket.
Do you know what I felt like in this album? Yeah, I just felt like the timing's wrong. I feel like the timing's wrong. Like in the summer. It there just didn't feel
like in terms of I listened to it briefly and then I had a more in-depth listen on the way back from work, and it just feels like timing wise it just doesn't. I'm confused by what, especially
to release it at the beginning of summer. And it to not have that, it doesn't have a summer feel for me. It doesn't have a summer feel for me, and I think that is the problem. Like, especially like if it was a normal gloomy day in London, I feel like it would listen. I'd listen better to it. Do you know what I mean? But because the sun was shining, it just I wasn't inspired to listen to it over and over.
I did straight after I listened to J. Cole. I went on my Apple Music and I crop circle. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't stopped listening to it since.
Yeah, Nine's album is pretty solid. There's definitely a few tracks that I think shouldn't have made the album. I see Shining A. Bangles. Yeah, I'm glad he's not on the rest of the album. Very happy about that, because it wouldn't have made sense. That song doesn't even fit on the album. I'm not gonna rap like I did last time, but it doesn't fit. We know what they were doing, and it's one of them catchy songs, but it's the same thing that everyone's doing. Like there's a video going around on Twitter at the minute with this producer, and he's like, "There's nobody rap on beats like this anymore," and he's got like a proper Heatmakers Cameron type beat. And then he goes, no, because they all rap and stuff like this. And it's any basic beat with a melody.
Do you know what
and that's what's happening. Like,
I feel that in itself, because I like the other day I was digging in the crates and I come across some old like Ashley beats and stuff.
Like, I still got pretty much all of them.
Do you know what it is? Yeah, like it takes a special type of rapper to do that at a high level. So like say for instance we had Roms on here, like unless you're nostalgic and you have that type of like vibe to you, it's difficult, because you can't give a project, you can't hand a project into your label and it'd be like you rapping over 15 soul sample type beats. In today's climate, they're just gonna look at you and laugh. Yeah, unfortunately, because that's what I love. Like, if I was a rapper,
I think it depends on who you are and what your lane is. Like,
and what you can do with it.
Yeah, because that specific beat in the video, for example, I wouldn't expect most rappers to do that. That's not my typical example. But then, like, one thing that really surprised me in the Nines album, the track with Scraps, Rubber Band, Scraps and Ray Black, it's a banger, and
he didn't do it justice.
Whoever like did the beat was sick because of the way they sampled Computer Love.
The sample's so shabby.
But what surprised me the most is that XL cleared that sample. Yeah. Because that's Zapp and Roger. That's big money. Mm-hmm. Computer Love has only been sampled for big singles.
Can we just shout us to XL on the rollout though?
Yeah. Just 2 weeks ago I was going, Nines is an artist, he needs to give us more, we need music. And then all of a sudden it was like, man's doing a film premiere.
Like, to the rollout.
I was looking at
That's
it and I was
big,
like,
though.
what's going on? And it's like, he's got a film. Is that a film for what? And then obviously it's a mini film that's got all the album's music in it at some point or another.
Apparently the film there's more parts to the film.
Yeah, it's said to be continued.
Yeah.
So
So
it was a decent little thing.
like,
I like the rollout.
It's a good look.
Yeah.
It's nice to see obviously a lot of familiar faces in there as well.
Jimmy Jones.
Do you know what it is, yeah? I think the album in its whole, because I listened to another podcast, A Seat at the Table, shouts to them guys, and one of the panelists on there was saying how obviously I See You Shining was more of obviously an attempt to get radio play.
Of course it was.
And even obviously when you listen to the initial track on the album, the first track on the album, he talks about some of his struggles in terms of he can't do shows.
Yeah, he can't do shows. The police lock him down everywhere, so which is why he can only perform abroad.
The radios don't necessarily grab it because he doesn't have a very radio friendly style.
No.
No, he doesn't.
His closest thing to a radio record before was Yay.
Not even, I think
That was
the track with Hailey from Western, the one that had the drone video. Oh shit! Off 1 foot, was it 1 foot in?
What? Can't blame me.
Can't blame.
That was
you
it.
Can hear that.
That's the radio. Yeah, that's the closest radio song. That and the other one I just mentioned.
Definitely.
Nothing else is
nothing
radio
else
friendly.
is really radio friendly. But even going back to what you said about the track with Ray Black, yeah, like Scraps comes in, sounds like
Scraps kills
smooth,
it. Yeah.
and then you go to I like Nines' awkwardness. I like as much as people say, oh, his flow is mad awkward, and I like languid rappers sometimes, innit? In terms of
he's on
like
that borderline that we talked before.
Yeah. So for me, it's like the clarity you get in a Scraps verse, and then you compare. Like I just don't like for how amazing Ray Black delivered the hook.
Yeah.
The dichotomy between the two verses was just a little bit too
one
wild.
thing
That word.
That's one thing that I think about this project, that like I like Nines. I'm always gonna like Nines, innit? There's always gonna be a couple tracks where I think he like kind of falls off. So on the last album, it was Trapper of the Year. I thought he was really offbeat and awkward on that, like too awkward.
Yeah.
So one thing I was looking for from 1 Foot Out to this project is that a clear improvement in his rapping skills, which he hasn't shown. He's still the same.
It's still the same.
Which is cool. Which is cool. I can deal with it because I still like the music.
Like him.
Yeah, I like him and I like the music, but I think he needs to tighten it up a bit, because Scraps, even if you compare like the mixtape stuff, Scraps was always at this level, and then he slowly brought it up into his own projects, like into his albums and stuff.
Do you know what it is? Yeah, like the delivery that Nines uses a lot of the time. So you see the bounce that he had on the single I See You Shining.
Yeah.
If he gave us just a little bit more enthusiasm, I think he could get away with it a little bit more on certain tracks, because the album, it started like very introspective, very much what I look forward to when I do play Nines' music.
Yeah.
Like he's a good storyteller, innit? So the first song was perfect for me. Great start, knocked it straight out the pot, and then as you progressed, obviously, the more you noticed the features, and obviously, for me, that's where obviously it started to kind of like dilute the sound a little bit, because obviously, technically, when I think of the word crop circle and knowing what I know about Nines, I'm expecting certain and I don't know. It's one of those things. I would like to see where he goes next. I like that. I won't say I love it.
Yeah, I still like the album. I think 1 Foot Out's a better album.
Yeah.
But then I think some of the standout tracks on this are that good. Like for me, like I said, Rubber Bands is hard, and Line of Fire Part 5. That is like proper street. Same way.
Stop playing. Same way.
Yeah.
Can't lie to you.
I think it's just after that where there's the low in the album. There's like 3 tracks, and then the track with Dave is decent. Although I personally feel like that was forced, because everyone's on Dave and his introspectiveness. And even though Nines does it, I just feel like that particular one was a little bit forced. It was like, it makes sense to get the Dave record.
But then it wasn't necessarily like, it was just the hook, innit? So
yeah, but it was what you expect from Dave, innit? Like,
another project that we wanted to get our teeth into was the Jim Jones Wasted Talent.
yeah, Jim Jones flipping signed Heatmakers up for a chunk there, where they're kind of all over the project, I think.
Is it good?
It's actually,
I haven't listened to
it's
it.
actually decent. I've never been a Jim Jones fan.
I love Jim
ever.
Jones. As you
Riz loves Jim
We
Jones.
know.
But I've never been a huge Jim Jones fan. Like, it took me years to even actually listen to his albums properly.
Do you know
but this is actually decent.
They made a point here on the we always mention the Joe Budden podcast, but Rory made Joe and Rory made the point that obviously that in terms of Jim being the hype man to obviously now one of the more consistent
He's the
outputters of music from that particular camp, because obviously
he is.
Cam jumps in and out of rap when he feels like it, whereas Jim has been probably the most
and
consistent.
Jules has just been a ghost.
And what I will say is that I would salute Jim in terms of his ability to make a song more than his lyrical content.
I think he's in a similar criteria with Fat Joe there of song making. I think he's very good at that.
We're just like, because that brings me on to one, like, in terms of Stack and Max here.
Yeah,
I feel that if Stack and Max didn't obviously disappear for obviously Stack is no longer with us. And obviously
Max is away for a long time.
I feel that the sky was the limit for Jim Jones.
Oh, 100%.
In terms of with those two dudes, and if you look at the direction
by his side
of music and how it stands currently, where we've got that super, because I think all of these Future,
oh my god,
all of these people that have come into the forefront, they're all branches off Max's tree as far as I'm
100%.
And then if you have Stack penning all the verses, it was looking very promising for the Bird Gang at one point. So it's like having this project as like a resurgence of obviously that whole Dipset Heatmakers. It's like like the track with Jada, fire. The Epitome track as well, fire.
The one where they flipped Diplomatic Community as well, that was cold. Like
we haven't.
When I heard them, so I was thinking Diplomatic Community ain't even that old.
No.
And then I was like, surely they can't just use that on their album, on his album, sorry. And then the way they flipped it, I was like,
Do you know what it is? Obviously, I think we haven't ever really had too many examples of Jim and Cam going back to back, so that was nice.
Jim definitely holds his own. I think he's at that point now where you see, like with the Woo, that certain people were the point guys. Jim is now to liking it is like it's the Ghost or Ray. Now he's filled that position in the sense of he's the only one out there constantly repping, constantly putting projects out. And I have to admit, I was 50-50 when he signed to Rock Nation, and not because of all the politics and all of that, but it's just like at that point
it didn't really make much sense.
I didn't know if it made sense. I was like, is Jim really going to be able to put out his best there? And just it's a decent project. I'm quite impressed, to be honest.
There was the track with Trav, I asked Betmark, vibes still, I'm not gonna lie. Check that out when you get an opportunity to.
I was pleasantly surprised.
We don't have anything else to cover, guys.
Do we? Is that it?
Pretty
I feel
much.
like there's more. Or maybe we just went through it quicker when we went left, and you had a couple monologues and all that as well. So
do you guys have any breaks?
Yeah, I got one from my favourites that I always promote every time, and I'm gonna keep doing it until you lot are sick of me.
What, Children of Zeus?
Children of Zeus.
No. No.
I've had this song for ages, but I couldn't play it before because of, well, one, I was being nice, and two, it's politics and stuff as well. So I checked it in before, so I couldn't play it. But now it's been announced I can. They're dropping a double single at the beginning of May with Slow Down and I think All Night on there, and All Night is the one I'm gonna play. I'm not gonna lie, I ripped it off their radio show like 2 months ago, and I've been banging it since. Typical old school break. What they seem to be doing now is getting that blend of like hip hop and R&B and soul and whatnot.
I
So
dipped in my bag this week. I'm not gonna lie. I think I got smoked with you guys still.
yeah, you keep saying. Though I'd be happy for you if you did, because it's about time. To be honest.
Nah, man, I had smoke last week as well, man. Don't rat me off. I actually won the Twitter vote as well. So shouts to all.
Yeah, but what? How many people voted? Like 12.
I didn't even see that
Yeah, the people voted. Me and Ashley got 40%.
First word records soon come. Watching Tyson on the telly. My slow dance looking handsome.
You can tell it's off the radio.
The nicest, my bar from the story so far.
I like this.
Raise up the prices, now who you know now. Rockin' feel a late summer.
And they do this sick live as well.
Come and talk to me like a Jodeci song. And she's a queen, but she know that she's wrong. And this is strictly for my stuff.
Time won't spend. You gotta keep your mind on rent. It's just another Monday week. We don't get to play no more. Moving like we was before. We lost the way. Yeah. Show me how you do what you're doing out on the floor. Lost in your rhythm time. Oh yeah. It's been so long. It feels so new.
And then run for a
This
little
one's coming
longer,
real soon.
just because of the chorus.
Children of Zeus all night.
Yeah, I just hope that you can feel this. Keep on moving.
Yeah, that's all night. I think that's the not like the breakthrough track, but I think that's the one that's gonna open a lot of ears to them. I think.
I like that.
He's next. Sure.
Alright.
Let me take my shoes off.
Oh wow. I don't actually.
I'm gonna cross my legs.
You never know. Shakira might just play some crud out of nowhere. Like.
Yeah, no, I'm not. This is If Only by Raveena.
This is where I need my acoustic guitar.
Hey.
Vibes.
When I was younger and I didn't know better, living with these walls, searching for pleasure. Some kind of angel
Sounds
took
very
me out
Isley
of the
Brothers.
jungle. From your blue lights and the sunlight, I sleep better at night without you around. Sometimes I still awake for you coming out. It's too late to hold me, too late to call me to. You're staying if only I could get on.
I like that. That's very smooth. Very,
that.
very smooth.
I am going to be playing a joint by a lady by the name of Olivier. She's from
Very-
London, but somehow she managed to get herself in contact with Brent Fires,
Oh.
who produced a few tracks off an EP she has called Amber Olivia EP.
No.
10 points for originality. on the name of the
Self-titled project.
Yeah, I'm gonna play a track called Eyes on You. Eyes on Us, sorry.
And produced by Brent Fires is this one, yeah?
Yeah.
Alright.
Let me skip to the.
Wanna see it if they let you don't treat me good. But your fam and your friends, they get out in our business.
Sounding very Olivier-ish.
I was thinking that.
Understood. Because there's too many eyes on us. Too many people in our business. Too many eyes on us. Oh, what it is, I'm telling you that too many eyes on us. Too many people in our business. Too many eyes on us. Oh, what it is, too many eyes.
Yeah, that's That's
So
a
that
vibe.
was
I like
Eyes
that.
on Us by Amber Olivier.
There's a couple other songs that have come out of late. Ruby Francis, I played one of her songs before. She's got a new single called Move. That's really good. What else is that? She also did a remix of a Mundu song. Or Mundu, sorry, I think his name is. Called Catch Me If You Can. That's, very dope remix. Who else is that? There's bits and pieces about at the minute, so.
There's someone that I just want to give a quick little shout to as well. Jeremiah. I'm not sure if anyone's listened to the Chocolate Box.
2 out of 4 tracks.
Yeah, 2 out of the 4 tracks. I think the Hitmaker songs on there.
Yep.
If you do, well, it's hot today, innit? So you might not get this till Monday, but yeah, unfortunate. But I'm gonna be banging 2 of the joints off of the Chocolate Box.
Yeah.
I do like
one
a couple
flip
of
H
that,
Town,
yeah.
one flip Bobby Brown, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah, both bangers.
Yeah, but that is us for this week, guys. Make sure you are gonna be using some type of sun protection if you're out and about.
Yeah, don't get burnt, man. I see you lot wild. I see bears on people, sunburnt people on the way back from work. I'm like, you lot are moving mad.
But yeah, hopefully, long may the good weather continue. London's just a much nicer place to be in.
Yeah,
when
it
it's
is.
sunny.
T-shirt weather in the
Make
manner,
sure
my
you
friend.
might want to find yourself with a nice cold cider on a terrace somewhere, with a nice little view, because I know that's what I'm gonna be at this afternoon. But yeah, I'll hand over to Shakira.
I forgot my script, guys. Put me on the spot like that, man.
They're taking our jobs.
Yeah, interact with us, guys, on the Twitter, BRL_podcast. Use the hashtag BeatsRhymesLifePod.
A lot more interaction this week, or last episode. I liked it still.
Yeah,
So-
get involved, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, peace.